Well, hello, everybody, and guess what? It is the second season of Real Talk at the Barbershop, the Virtual Edition. I'm Tony Waller, and I am so excited to start talking the real talk with real people. Got some real stuff to talk about, and I'm really, really, really happy that we're getting ready to do this. And for this first episode, we are going to be visiting with some friends of ours in New York. Yes! This is going to be great, and I am so thoroughly excited about today's conversation. It is back to school time. Isn't that something? I just cannot believe that it's already time to be looking at getting our kids back to school. Young people are going back to college, K through 12 going back to their respective schools, a lot of stuff going on. And we're trying our best to make sure that we get everyone ready for the new school year. And I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk to a number of individuals who are working in a very, very special project in New York and trying in an effort to get our kids ready to go back to school. So let's get this thing started. I would like to introduce to you all the incomparable Miss Keia Clarke, CEO of the New York Liberty. Yes, that is awesome. Keia, how are you?
I'm doing quite well. Great to be with you here today, Tony.
Keia, a bad sister, doing some bad things for the world. I absolutely love it. There is nothing like wonderful Black woman power. And I am so excited to be talking with you and so proud of the work that you're doing. So congratulations for being CEO. So Keia, tell me about you. Tell me, give me your story.
Sure. Well, as you already said, I'm CEO for the New York Liberty. I've actually been with this franchise for almost 11 years. This is my 11th season. So I like to say I almost grew up. I was an athlete. I played college basketball. I majored in business and always really aspired to be in some corporate space. Little did I know that it would be in sports. So really, I get to live out a dream of mine professionally. And personally, I'm a wife and a mother of two. I have a 9 and a 7-year-old. So, this endeavor, this project in regard to back to school is near and dear to me because of what we do, with the Liberty, but also, who I am at home.
Keia, I think it's wonderful what you're doing today and what the work that you're trying to do in helping to prepare our children. So often, those of us in the corporate world, we get so entrenched in the business of what we do and who we are that we don't often realize that we also need to have an impact on those around us. Right? And so how did this come up, this whole idea of utilizing your voice, utilizing your influence as a CEO to drive more than just the business, but to really do something in the community? Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, just generally speaking, inserting ourselves into various conversations, having a social impact and being amongst the people is everything that not only the Liberty are about, but the WNBA. This is, the sport where players are accessible, games are affordable, but it's just about a good time. And generally, sports are about creating memories. And if we can tie that together, expose someone to a professional game, but also give them, a reason to really connect with us in a different way. We're all about those moments. And, back to school is no different. For many, many years, I mentioned I've been with the team for a long time. We've celebrated back to school, but this particular season, it felt like it could have a little bit more legs. It could have a bigger impact because the school years, and it's crazy to even think about, this will be the third year where students have been affected by COVID-19. So, we sort of got together and put our heads together along with great partners like yourselves at Walmart and also at Talkspace and LVMH, and really, thought about what we could each bring to the table and what we could do differently in this return to school. And the last thing I'll add is our season falls so perfectly with back to school. We are in, the second half of the season, but as everybody's gearing up and ramping up, they're still home right now. So parents can come out, have a great day at the game, and take in what we have to offer. So we're really, really excited about it.
It's interesting that you talk about this, and it's something that we talk a lot about at Walmart, the fact that, it's one thing to be in the community, but it's a whole different thing to be part of the community, right? That it takes more than just having this kind of physical presence, but we got to expand that presence in finding ways that we can, first of all, understand what is happening in communities, and then figuring out how do we leverage our strengths and our assets to really create some real change in communities. So I'm excited about what you're doing, and I think that I'm hoping that more and more entities will be thinking like you, that do the things that you're doing to really make a difference. Because at the end of the day, we can really do something pretty significant if we just do our little piece of it. So I'm excited about that. So you're going to be focusing on back to school, and you're focusing on making sure that our kids are well supplied. And so I'm excited that you all will be in a position to hand out backpacks with supplies, help with some of the health screenings, and that's going to be great. And one of the things that I know that you have a real particular interest in is on mental health. And I know that you're going to be doing some things around that space. I know that Talkspace is going to be part of the work that you're doing, and they do a lot of work in this area. Talk to me about the importance of mental health and the things that we should be doing to help kids and to help their families as we kind of deal with the situations that we're in today.
Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat right now. Everyone has been cognizant of, our mental health over COVID especially. And I think something that became very apparent to us is how are we thinking about our youth in this time? There was a lot of focus on, the professional space and people being out of jobs and people, dealing with families being at home for the first time. But really looking at how this affects kids. And I speak from being a parent in this regard, listening and understanding and really being honest and acknowledging that mental health is real. Whether it's good health or bad health, your mental health needs to be, acknowledged. And I think sometimes in our community, the Black community, culturally, we're not taught to really, pay attention to those things. So that's one of the things that we were really excited about focusing on as a thematic for this season. And I think, being at home together for so long over the last 18 months or so, communication and how we talk about things and how we get things kind of out in the open became very apparent. But really just the courage to protect your mental health. And I say courage, it takes courage to, first acknowledge it, but then be deliberate about making sure you're protecting it and, paying attention to it and getting help if it's needed is really important. So if we can be of help in any way and provide with the game as a backdrop, resources, education, getting people comfortable with, just having the discussion, we want to be additive in that way.
I love that. And I think that one of the things that you've really pointed out in what you just said here is the importance of all of us taking our own steps, right, in order to promote mental health. And oftentimes, like you said, there's that stigma, in particular in the African American community and communities of color, that the seeking of mental health is not, is not for us, right? When the reality is that we all need it. And there's also those misconceptions, right, of what it would take to get mental health. We often think of mental health as, let me find a therapist or let me find, a professional that requires me to now spend extra money that I don't have. When the reality is that there are a lot of ways to take care of yourself mentally. So if you were talking to me and saying, Tony, you need to get some help, and I came to you and said, well, I don't know what to do, what would you first recommend me, or what are the things that you would recommend to others to consider as part of, developing their mental health strategy, if you will?
It's a really good question. I wish I were the expert on it, but that's why we aligned with an expert in this space. And I think that's the thing that we were really, really geared up about in partnering with Talkspace, is that they're app-based. And we spend so much time on our phones as it is. And if there are ways and mnemonic devices and strategies and therapies that you can access right from your phone, right from the comfort of your own home, maybe that's a first step. Not everyone has to lay on a couch and talk things through. So I would say, understanding and researching what resources are out there are really important, but just to know that, you can seek out help, even if it's just, an ear or someone on the other line reading what you've typed. It's as easy as, logging in and being on an app. I think that would be a first step for someone who's had no exposure. I think also a lot of employers offer benefits in this space, and sometimes employees aren't even aware of those benefits. So even, perusing your website, talking to an HR manager may just be a first step in understanding, what's possible and what's out there. But sometimes it may not even be medical or professionals. Having me time, protecting your, personal time and space, pampering yourself. Those are all things that I look at as mental health. I remember sitting in a salon one day, my mother called me and I said, oh, I'm here getting my hair done. And she said, oh, okay, well, relax. Enjoy your time. And, she put that in perspective for me, like, oh, you're right. This is a time for me to let go and unplug and let someone else wash my hair, which, seems like such a simple thing. But, those are moments that I value, where it's just me and my thoughts and not necessarily work and not the hustle and bustle of the day. So I think, those are some things that I would offer as a first step for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. And sometimes it's just a matter of just finding those few moments, right, for yourself. How important is it that not only do we do self-care for ourselves, but you're a mother of two? How important it is for us as adults to be on the lookout for our kids from a mental health standpoint?
It's of the utmost importance. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the data and the number of kids who have lapsed into depression and just having these really clinical feelings within the pandemic. But let's not make a mistake. Before the pandemic, there were kids who probably, needed help. And I think the one thing that I would offer is listen. As adults, we need to listen. And, I think a lot of times culturally, a lot of us come from the old school, children should be seen and not heard. And I heard that a million times throughout my life, throughout my childhood from others. But I happen to be an only child, and my mother was very intentional about listening to me. How was my day? What are my aspirations? How do I feel? What am I thinking? And it felt, now as a parent, now I could look at it as it felt progressive because, I know my cousins were being told children should be seen and not heard. But I think more than ever, we need to be listening, active listeners, quiet listeners, just to really understand what our children are going through. And this is something that, I take a lot of intentional and deliberate action toward with my own two children who are pretty young. They're 9 and 7. But even young adults, we have, a considerable amount of early adults, entry-level employees in the workplace. And I'm even cognizant to make sure that they are heard and they are seen and they're validated when they bring issues up. So I think, those are the things that I would offer, is really just to take a step back and listen, ask the right questions, but then, listen so that, they understand that we're here for them.
You've got an amazing day planned, lots of activities. It has to feel good, what you're doing. What are you hoping comes of this, right? What is your hopeful outcome for today?
My hope for today doesn't change than every day that I show up for these games. It's, about creating a memory. Some people come to see the win or see the loss, but most people come for the feeling that you get when you watch greatness happen. And to do that at a time where people are gearing up and going back to school, to have a celebration and not a woe is me or I don't know what mask I'm going to wear. For some children today, it might be the first time that they take a COVID test. For some parents today, it might be the first time that they hear some literature or some positive information or relevant information about the vaccine. I think all those tidbits together, when you piece them together, is going to end in joy, because there's a game that's going to happen. There'll be smiles and high fives, and we're dealing with a heavy, serious issue. But what we're in the business of is really about creating memories. And, that's no different today than it is on any other day of the year when we play. So we want to continue to be our authentic selves. We're happy that and delighted that we could bring, a different angle and shine light on something that's really relevant right now. But, New York Liberty basketball, WNBA basketball is a happy place. So we just want to, sort of piece those two things together. And if even one person walks away feeling like, we made the difference, or they weren't going to be able to buy their kid a book bag this year, and, thankful to, Walmart for providing that for, several kids today are going to walk away with that, whether their mom or dad has a job and was able to do it or not, that might mean the difference. So that's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I hope people think about when they walk away from the arena today.
That's awesome. And for those of us who are not going to be able to be there to help out, there's still things that we could probably be doing. So if you had an action that you wanted the viewers to take, what would that be?
The action would be it's about community. It does take a village to keep things moving, to inspire the next generation. So, whether you're volunteering locally, whether you're encouraging that kid walking down the street, whether you're a listening ear for someone who just may need someone to talk to, we all have something to offer. So, that's what I would encourage folks to do, whether you're, in Brooklyn this afternoon or not.
I love it. That's going to be awesome. Keia, you're amazing. You should be really proud of what you're doing. It has really been an honor having this conversation with you. I wish you all the best today. I wish you continued success in your journey. Not only as a CEO, but continued success as a mother and a wife. Continued success as just being the bad Black woman that you are. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that we ain't seen nothing yet. And so all the best to you and everything that you do. Continued success. We're rooting for you. And I hope that everything turns out fantastic today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Talk at the Barbershop, the Virtual Edition. I am Tony Waller, and I am so excited to talk with one of the most innovative young Black brothers I have ever met, and none other than the man himself, Kornelius Bankston. Kornelius, what's up, superstar?
Hey, man, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, when I think about all the things that you have been doing and working on and how you have really tried to disrupt the systems that have been put in place that have kept people down, the first person that comes to mind is Kornelius Bankston, because you have over and over and over done some pretty amazing things. And now you're on this whole new venture, techPLUG. So let's start with that. Talk to me a little bit about techPLUG. What is techPLUG? What are you all trying to do?
Well, thank you so much for having me. techPLUG was founded about 2 years ago. Out of my work experience in Silicon Valley, leading business development for a startup, I realized through my work there that underserved and marginalized communities were continually being left behind as it relates to innovative health solutions. And so especially now in this climate of COVID, health disparities has been elevated in a lot of individuals' consciousness and awareness. And so in our efforts at techPLUG, we work with innovative health tech companies from across the country, from Silicon Valley all the way here to New York, to help them to understand how do you actively engage vulnerable and marginalized communities with innovative health solutions so that we can be proactive about our healthcare opposed to reactive. And so you can think about innovative solutions around genetics and genomics, and why would that be important to Miss Ann down the street with diabetes? And so we help communicate that information to her in a way in which she can understand and be empowered with that. And so when she goes to her clinician, she can then talk with more scientific proof, as well as her own personal experience as it relates to her healthcare.
So tell me about techPLUG and some of the things that you all have been working on. What are the things that, so I understand overall what you're trying to make happen, right? Where do you start? Because as you know, the challenges that exist health-wise in marginalized communities is dramatic. Right? And so you had to figure out, with this big animal, where do you start to move that process forward? So how did y'all decide what to start with, and what are you starting with? Right.
Great question. When we started, we really looked at chronic diseases within the Black community, and we worked with a company called SensorMed and their remote patient monitoring platform, where they were monitoring Black and brown people in Georgia. So we worked with them first to help them to understand, or help them to scale and grow beyond Georgia. Then we morphed into working with a diagnostic company. So it really happened very organically with the companies that we engaged, but they were all centered around chronic diseases that disproportionately impact Black and brown communities. And so that's where we really focus our attention. So we think about diabetes, heart disease, and even now with asthma, with COVID, all those things kind of disproportionately impact Black and brown communities. And so that's where we started, and where we are now as it relates to scaling and growing. And I'm happy to announce we've acquired a space in New Orleans, in Treme. And Treme in New Orleans is the oldest African-American community in the country. And we're opening a health innovation center there in Treme. It's 1,800 square feet, where we'll continue to do the work on the ground in community. So you can imagine there's a guy named Mr. John that lives across the street. He's battling diabetes. Within the center, we have innovative health tech companies that are trying to solve a problem that's unique for him. And so we started with just looking at chronic diseases globally. Now we're more ingrained in community, touching people where they live, so these solutions can meet them where they are.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that last phrase, meeting them where they are. And I think that's probably one of the places that we've missed out on, right? Of making people or desiring people to come to us versus us getting to them and helping them exactly where they are. So kudos for that. That's pretty awesome. And I can't wait to see what comes of that. Now you're in New York.
Yes, sir.
You're hanging out.
Yes.
With in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
With New York Liberty.
Yes, sir.
With Walmart.
Come on, say it.
Come on.
Yeah.
Trying to help my babies as they get ready to go back to school.
Hey, that's what we're here for. We want to get them prepared. We want to have them informed and with the needed supplies and knowledge to be successful this school year.
And on top of that, you're also helping with testing. You were talking about COVID a few minutes ago, and you're talking about getting involved in helping to get our kids both tested and ready for school. And so, tell me about that a little bit. Tell me about what you're doing up there.
Yeah, it's so exciting, man. So thank you for the opportunity to be engaged and partnering with us in order to do this most important work here in community, on the ground, in community. I keep saying that because it's so vitally important that we begin to think that way as health innovators, that we have to be in community. But techPLUG has a portfolio of companies ranging from, companies that are looking at diabetes to companies that are developing innovative health tech solutions like COVID tests. And so one of our portfolio companies, Simple Health Kit, is here. They've developed a COVID test that is self-administered and very easy to use. And so they're here on the plaza to help kids go back to school informed around their COVID status. And it's a very easy test I had mentioned. It's self-administered, a couple swabs here, a couple swabs there in each nostril, tip it off and put it in a solution, and you go on about your way. It's very easy to use. And the thing about Simple Health Kit's test is that we've deployed the test in schools, in communities that are marginalized that probably have never had access. Some of these students and kids we work with have never had access to a COVID test. And why is that important? Well, when we think about contact tracing and we think about our community, which is Black and brown, some of us have been disproportionately impacted by diabetes, heart disease. They don't even know their status because they don't even want to go and get tested. But if your child now have access to constant or engaged testing, then you can know what the status is for the family if someone is, unfortunately impacted by COVID. So we're offering through Simple Health Kit testing here on the plaza here in Brooklyn. So we're extremely excited about the opportunity to do this here.
And so I would assume, and and I probably shouldn't assume, but I assume that you're doing this work all throughout the country. So it's not just in New York that this is happening. You're going all over the country trying to find those opportunities to do the same thing.
Yes, sir. So we are on a road show. So not only here in New York, we're in New Orleans. And when you think about New Orleans, because I'm actually living there, I'm 5 weeks into living in New Orleans. And if you have been watching the news, you can see the COVID numbers there in New Orleans. And when you think about health disparities in New Orleans and access, there's an extreme need. And so we'll be doing an event there on August 28th with the City of New Orleans Department of Health and with Walmart's support. We'll be there providing tests, as well as Washington, D.C. We'll be doing that in community in Ward 8. Providing the same type of services. And Simple Health Kit's reach is all across the country. So we're doing work in Oakland, in Sacramento, in San Francisco, and even New Orleans and Atlanta. So we're spread out across the coast. So very excited about the work that we're able to do.
That is really awesome. So let me ask you this. What advice would you give us adults as we try to prepare kids and our communities, especially during this time where we're dealing with COVID, we're dealing with the variants, we're dealing with an increase of cases? What are the things that we can be doing? Because I know that y'all are doing some really great work, right? But you can't do it by yourself. Are there some things that we as adults, as individuals, could be doing to help out, to help out communities?
Yes, I think knowledge is power. One of the best resources we have in the country is the CDC website. So now we understand what variants are. What is a variant? What is a Delta variant? What is the Lambda variant? Why is that important in this time, right? So what is the importance of continued testing within our community? What does it mean to have been vaccinated and still contract COVID? So I think knowledge is power, especially in this moment, especially when kids are going back to school. Some students are not vaccinated for a variety of reasons, and the vaccine is not prepared for a certain age group at this time. And so knowledge is power. Going to the website within your local city's Department of Health, understanding what protocol is in place as students go back to school. What are the protocols from a state level? How are we reopening? How are we engaging from a social distancing perspective? I think all of that information is vitally important. And so I think it begins at home, and at home researching and going to the cdc.gov website, understanding, and I can't even reiterate that enough, and then going to your local health department's website, because they too have resources in place to help people stay informed.
And I would suggest along with that, right, that we do it together, right? That families come together and do it versus it necessarily being a situation where we're relaying information to our young folks. How can we do this thing together, so that we're educating ourselves together on it and making sure that we're both hearing, reading, seeing the same exact thing and carrying out our actions together as a result?
Yes. One of the things that I got to give kudos to the team here on ground here in Brooklyn is we developed an app, a passport app, specifically for the Brooklyn community. So when individuals engage on the plaza today, they'll scan, it's a touchless experience. They'll scan a QR code. The information is localized, and I can't even echo that enough. It's localized to their community. So information that they need, they get it in real time through their phone, and they'll be able to have this access to this information well beyond the event, so they can stay empowered and informed beyond this activation here. So really excited about that platform the team has been able to develop so that individuals here can stay informed together, as you had mentioned, students and adults or guardians.
That is so cool. You came up with that, didn't you?
Well, I did. We got a team that's very talented that came up with it, so yeah.
And he's humble too, y'all. Don't be fooled. This is one smart brother. He's doing some really amazing things. Kornelius, let's talk a little bit about you. Tell me your story. How did you get to this point?
Well, Tony, man, I'm from the country, bro. I am from a little small town in Thomaston, from Georgia, a little small town called Thomaston, Georgia. Grew up there, single parent home with my mom and my sister. But I always had aspirations beyond what I saw. So I went to Morehouse, graduated Morehouse with a chemistry degree, studied chemistry there. And then I realized I felt like I wanted to be a doctor, but I was too emotional. So I was like, if somebody died, I would die. So I was like, okay, bro, you cannot become a physician. You need to do something else. And so in that, I went to Emory University and got a master's degree in biomolecular chemistry with the idea of how do I think about developing innovative solutions to transform the lives of people that I care about. And that time it was around sickle cell anemia. It's like, why are we not seeing a lot of innovations in sickle cell anemia? Oh, because there's not a lot of black and brown people that are in the innovation space to solve the problem. And so that took me from there. And then I went to Georgia Tech and I got an MBA from Georgia Tech, focused on how do I take all this science, knowledge, and acumen and really apply it into a business arena. And so took those academic experiences and went on and did work at the state of Georgia, Morehouse School of Medicine in their tech transfer office. And tech transfer offices are important in which they think through how do you take innovations from the lab to take it out so people can utilize it, especially at Morehouse where they reach the underserved population. So that was a great experience. And then went on and had business development roles throughout my career that got me to this point of, okay, Kornelius, you can go out and do this thing. You can help companies scale and grow in populations that you care most about. And so from Thomaston, Georgia, now I'm in New Orleans, Louisiana, doing this work. So that's a little bit about me.
What's next for you, Kornelius?
Oh, we got to make techPLUG win, man. That's it. We are here to help more companies scale and grow. We are here to change the narrative as it relates to our community. And so when I say change the narrative, when you think about Henrietta Lack's story, when you think about Tuskegee, people in our community was like, we're not doing any of this healthcare clinical trials work because look what they did to Henrietta Lack and look what they did to Tuskegee. I'm on a mission to change that narrative, where people of color will actively want to participate in clinical trials, not just because they're giving you a $50 or $200 gift card, but because what it will do for us for generations to come, how it would transform our health outcomes by us actively engaged and being empowered by the science, opposed to being fearful what they will do with our data. They meaning, big pharma companies, big health tech companies.
Yes. So what are you hoping the outcome to be for today? What do what's your dream for today?
Well, ideally, we would want, we're expecting between 2,000 and 5,000 people to come through the area. If we can get all 2,000 and 5,000 people either vaccinated or access to a COVID test, that would be amazing. But if we just get one person to log in and take that information back to their family members to say, hey, this is what I've learned, this is what I'm empowered by, this is how we need to get active and engaged around our health, which is now community related. Like if I get COVID, it can impact you. If we can get one person to do that, I think we have won today. So we want to get at least one person actively engaged around their care, especially around COVID.
For all of us who are watching, for all of us who don't have the opportunity to be with you all in Brooklyn today, what's your advice for us? What's the one thing that you would like us to do?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. That's a great question, Tony.
Oh, wow. Every once in a while I hit it good.
You stopped me there. I think what COVID has done for us as a country, as a world, it is a very personal conversation when we talk about our COVID status. And the point that you had made earlier, making this a conversation around the dinner table, to empower, to be something that as it relates to our community, that we start at home in discussing this and normalizing the conversation that is not taboo, right? Because we have to live with other people. We have to interact with other people around our community. We have to get on planes. We gotta move forward with work. To start having those very engaging conversations, particularly in the Black and brown community, because when you look at our numbers as it relates to testing, as it relates to vaccination, we are very low on those numbers. So we start having actively engaged conversations around those areas. I think it could help transform how we continue to move forward out of this pandemic.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder often if the challenge that we have in in making sure that people have information, that people understand what it is about vaccine, about this particular vaccine, right? I wonder often if the challenge is not only let me take that back. I wonder if a part of the challenge is giving access to information, right? So do you think that also plays a role? I often wonder if it's not just the misinformation that's out there, but just that we aren't reaching people. And you talked about this earlier about meeting people where they are. And so are there some other things that we should be thinking about as far as meeting people where they are to make sure that they have the information that they need to make an informed decision?
Yeah, I think great question. Salvo Innovations, they're here with us. They are a company that is led by two Black women out of DC. And their whole mission is to do what you just mentioned, to get people information where they are. And they have a platform where it's localized for New Orleans, where it's localized for Washington, D.C., where individuals can get the information and it's in a way in which they can understand. And so they can get empowered by it. So to your point, yes, localized information to meet people where they are is critically important. COVIDready.com is a site that individuals could go to, and they can get informed around vaccination sites, around testing centers, specifically around COVID. But to your point, I think that's a larger problem that we have to really lean into. How do we develop platforms that can communicate with people, no matter what your education level is, no matter what your ethnic background is, and that you can get this information in a way that you can receive it and be empowered by it so that you can go make the best decision for yourself and for your family.
You've left us with a lot to think about. You've left me with a lot to think about. And I for one am committed to find ways of meeting people where they are. And you've given us the great sources that we can use, the CDC website, some of the other COVID Ready, so the information is there. Now we just got to figure out how to meet people where they are. And so I, for one, will take on that challenge. And I appreciate you issuing that challenge to us.
That's amazing. That's good. That's good.
Kornelius Bankston, the man, the superstar. Thank you for what you're doing. I think it's awesome, the work that you're trying to accomplish through techPLUG. I know that we have not heard anything yet that you are going to be disrupting things in a way that it never has been disrupted before. And I'm so excited to see what you're about to make happen. So ladies and gentlemen, look out for Kornelius Bankston. Look out for techPLUG. They're going to be doing some pretty amazing things. Thank you for joining us today, and being in New York, helping this wonderful day. You're definitely helping us to make it a success, and we appreciate you. And we wish you all the best as you continue down your journey. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the next episode of Real Talk at the Barbershop, the Virtual Edition. It's Tony Walla, make you want to scream and holla. We are back in the room, you all. And let me tell you, I am about to pass out right now. Why? Because we're getting ready to have a conversation with none other than, no. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to have you guess. If I were to say, Boys in the Hood, Big Mama, Soul Food, Best Man, who would you think about? Huh? Who would you think about? If I said she is married to the one and only Ime Udoka, what would you say? Huh? You got it? Well, let me tell you who it is. It's none other than my queen, the one, the only Nia Long. Wow, I'm so excited. Nia, how are you?
Oh my gosh, that was like the best introduction. And also, you got Ime's name perfect.
Thank you.
Do you know how many people chop up his name? I'm like, it's Udoka, not Udoka. It's African, Nigerian. Thank you, my friend. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really great. I'm so excited for today. I'm so happy and thankful to get the community together. We're gonna watch women play some basketball. We got the Liberty team playing against Seattle, and this is gonna be a great game because the last game they won. So this is gonna be a good game tonight. I'm excited. The kids are outside having a great time. We've got backpacks, we've got school supplies, we have all sorts of things that were gifted to us. Thank you very much, Walmart.
Well, thank you for doing what you are doing, right? I mean, what I am so happy about is that you took the time. And you're serving as an example to all of us because we all can do something to help our children, especially now as we're getting back to school. And on top of that, we are still dealing with the challenge of the pandemic. And our kids are really having a tough time in some senses, right? They're trying to figure out, how to make this thing work. And they need our help to make that happen. And I just appreciate the fact that you stood up and said, there's something that I can do.
Well, I'm a mom myself, and I know how I felt the day that the pandemic hit and I got the call that my son was not able to go back to school. I felt powerless in that moment. I felt like the bottom had fallen out. And so we've spent the last year and a half really trying to navigate through these muddy waters without losing confidence, without losing a sense of self. And also, the most important thing that we all need to talk about and focus on is mental health right now. Because even with my own son, I saw him, he was withdrawn, he didn't want to exercise, he didn't want to do anything. He was just sort of hopeless and I think afraid. And so now as we start to prepare for the new school year, I just wanted to do something to bring a little joy to the community, to let the parents know that I am you and you are me. We're in this together. And there is no separation because when you are a parent, your child is the most important thing to you. It doesn't matter what you look like, where you're from, how much money you have, what your education level is. The love is the love. And so when you pour into the community, it gives hope and inspiration during times that are particularly difficult. The best thing I can say to parents is have a schedule. Time to eat, time to do homework, time to shower, and really give your children something that they can depend on, because that's the thing that gives them the confidence when the world is sort of taking that away from them.
I love it. And in fact, you answered one of my questions because I wanted to ask, what do you advise us as we try to help our children? What can we do from a mental health standpoint in helping our children, prepare? And I love what you said, kind of give them that regimented schedule and something to look forward to.
Yeah, the routine is really important. And I think Black and brown people have really had to sort of live with the attitude of what we don't want. Well, I don't want this to happen, and I don't want that to happen, and I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. We need to focus on what we actually do want, because it changes the energy when you start to talk about things with a positive narrative. I want to see my next year of school be filled with greatness, no matter what the circumstances are. Even if I have to make a mask, I'm gonna draw some art on my mask. We have to start to find the light in this moment of darkness. I think whatever you think is what you manifest. So if you stay in the zone of positivity, you'll be, listen, I pray every morning when I wake up. I'm like, God, there are certain things that I just cannot handle. and I don't want to handle, and I'm going to pass those things over to you. And it's a relief, because through his grace, all things are possible, right? And we have to really speak into we have to live that. And those words are so extremely powerful in times like this, when you have no idea what's going to happen next. None of us really know, right? And so the best thing that we can do is pour into our community, support healthcare workers. Even if you have your kids once a week, bake cookies. Go to Walmart, get the ingredients, or order it online, bake cookies and drop it off at the hospital. Give your kids something to be proud of, so that they are still a part of a community, even if we're not as active as we used to be, or we're not circulating around the city as much as we used to be.
Yeah. You know, Nia, you have had an extraordinary career. You have done so many wonderful things, both on and off the camera. And I'm sure that throughout this time, you've learned a lot. So let's talk about the lessons a little bit. What would you, if you had the opportunity to meet your 18-year-old self, if you had the opportunity to meet your 12-year-old self, what would you tell her?
I just tell her, just wait, baby, we got this. Because at 12, we were living in South Central Los Angeles. I met John Singleton, blocks away from my home, when he was producing and directing Boys in the Hood. And, I kind of always knew, though, that I would have an opportunity to do something different. And I had a conversation about this exact thing, not just with my son, but with Mike Epps the other night. And when everything around you seems like it's falling apart. My mom was a single mom, highly educated, couldn't get a job. She ended up driving the city bus. I was a latchkey kid. I was also the kid who had like the no sugar peanut butter and the hard bread. So I was like considered a little weird. Now it's popular, but back then it was not popular. There was something inside of me that just said, don't look at what's around you, think about what you want. And I'm just a true believer in we can manifest whatever it is that we want if we focus on it. It's doing the work, having the education, and really keeping your eye on the sparrow. And that's what makes the difference. And people, it sounds so simple, but it really is simple if you trust the process.
Right. Absolutely.
And so I've just learned, to tell my younger self, like, it didn't seem like it was going to be so great, but it turned out okay, because I haven't given up, and I won't give up. And I don't care how big or small, or if I can make a difference in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 years, and then I know I'm doing what actually really brings me joy. And community service for me is a must. It's not an option, it's a must. It's a must for my children, because if we're not giving back, then why are we blessed and successful? Why? You got to give back. That's just not an option.
Yeah. So what would you tell other 12-year-old girls and boys growing up right now? What would be your piece of advice for them?
My piece of advice would be, get your education. Read as much as you can, so that no one can tell you anything, because you know it, because you've read it. I would say walk with pride. And when you walk into a room, start with a smile, because that's like the thing that really disarms people. And it also changes the energy in the room. So if you walk in, be proud. I tell my kids all the time, look at people in the eyes, shake their hands, smile, introduce yourself. That is just like, it's a breath of fresh air. If we start there, then, if that's a daily practice, then
everything starts to fall into place.
Well, I promise I'm going to do that. I'm going to walk in with
You
a smile.
did.
I did?
Oh my God, that's why I'm so happy right now.
Oh, thank you. But I agree with you. You know, you have the ability to control, the space that you're in. And at the end of the day, it is the thing that you can control. We were having a conversation not too long ago with a group of kids, and I was saying to them, yes, there are things that you cannot control, but there are things that you can control. And so put your energy on all the factors that you can control. And it's incredible what a difference that will make.
And taking the responsibility is like, it's huge when kids take responsibility, because that's what empowers them. I tell my 20-year-old, I'm like, listen, there are steps to success, but each step, big or small, is as equally as important as the next. So you have to take responsibility as you make the next move.
Yeah. So what are you hoping? You've put so much energy into this event in Brooklyn for the children for the children in New York. What are you ultimately hoping comes from this?
I just want people to feel inspired. I think, we've been living in literally in seclusion, right? Your mouth is covered, which is the thing that allows you to share information. So we've all been sort of trapped. No one knows what's happening next. If we can just take one moment to be inspired, to love on one another, to get excited about the kids actually being able to go back to school, and to know that even in the darkest times, we can find joyous moments to push through this. And I just always believe, God never gives us anything that we can't handle. And I think when you talk about Black and brown children in our communities, we are often the ones that are left behind. They are often the ones left behind. And I just want our kids to know, I see you, I love you, I support you. And, I'm a mom too, so I'm your mama. I'm like the auntie mama that you never met. But I'm thinking about you. And I think part of the difference between success and failure is just knowing that someone sees you and cares for you and is concerned for you and is willing to make 10 phone calls so you can have a new backpack today. That's, what this day is really about. I mean, I love talking to you, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to talk now, but it's, you're right. It's about spreading the message, but it's also not about me. It's about the kids. So I could really sit back, watch the game, and, see the smiling faces. My son is so excited because all of his friends from his basketball camp are here, and his dad is here. So he's all happy. Walmart, Talkspace, LVMH, thank you. Keia Clarke, Black woman CEO of the New York Liberty basketball team, my girl. Literally, we were strangers about 9 months ago, and now we just did something that people are talking about. This is the power of community.
Yes.
And now she's stuck with me forever.
Well, Nia, I want you to know that I am inspired, and I want to thank you so very, very much for you making this effort of putting something together to really make a difference. And I hope that those who get a chance to view this segment will be inspired and realize that they have the power to do the same, that they can get out here and do something to help our children, because it does take a village. It takes all of us to make this happen. And if we do our little part based on what it is that we can bring to the table, we have the ability to literally change the world. And I would argue not just change the world, but change the axis on which the world turns. And so, so thank you for what you are doing and what you will do. And I know that we are going to see something amazing from you, even bigger and better than we've already seen already. Okay. Now look, this is my last question.
Okay.
Give me the hookup. What's next?
Well, I'm taking the rest of the year off after this to really work on getting my son in school and getting him to a place in his new school where he feels confident. So I'm dipping into mommy mode, and I'm proud of that. I love it.
Nia,
thank you
thank
guys
you.
so much.
No, thank you, and I hope that you have a good day, a good rest of your day, checking out everything that's happening with the kids, and that you enjoy the basketball game, and all the best to you for the remainder of the year and beyond.
And please, let's go shoe shopping.
Yes, let's go
Because
shoe
I'm all
shopping.
about shoes.
Me too. I believe that shoes are the cure to everything.
Oh my God. Well, we are going to be friends beyond this event, Tony.
I love it. Well, seriously, thank you very, very much. And it really is an honor and a pleasure. And you just keep doing what you're doing and keep on inspiring and keep on, really going out here and making a difference. I'm excited for you and I'm excited for us. And the best is yet to come.
Bye, baby.
Bye. Take care. Thank you so much.